You shut up, you fool!
And comic historian.
Woo, go me!
Welcome to Marvel's Off the Rack. Okay, I've been doing a lot of digging here, okay? I've been doing a lot of research. I've been reading these books about Hollywood and producing and global economies and the emerging China market and the emerging Russia market, okay? There's this one book called Sleepless in Hollywood, The New Abnormal, that's just really fascinating. Like, it's got a lot of really interesting stuff about this whole new emerging market thing that's going on. And, like, after seeing this movie, like, this movie is really apparently not made for American audiences. Like, this movie is very much made for the international audience, okay? And if you didn't know, the international audience used to count for 20% of the business of Hollywood. By 2008, it had come to be 50%, and then in this short time, it has evolved to 70-30, and now is soon to be 80-20, okay? Because Americans, we are not seeing movies as much anymore.
So the New York Times reports that 2016 could be the worst year for movies based on tickets bought by U.S. adults since before the 1920s.
I don't know if that's because, you know, we have like downloading. I don't know. There's a lot of different ins and outs, okay? This is a very complex situation. I think a lot of it also comes down to the fact that people aren't going to see movies because they keep seeing remakes and reboots and sequels, and people are just tired of it. I think specifically the millennial audience is tired of it because we grew up with the best fucking shit around, okay? Like, I grew up with fucking Ghostbusters and like Beetlejuice and like RoboCop, like all this crazy stuff that was like all these original properties. And so, you know, you don't have people in America buying movies anymore. They're not going to the theaters. In fact, this is supposed to be like one of the like maybe shittiest years for millennials buying tickets since like 1920, okay? So because of that, on the other hand, okay, so we're also like, okay, I've seen a lot of movies, okay? I've seen a lot, specifically, let me just tell you, in horror movies specifically, I've seen so many fucking horror movies. I've seen so many fucking horror movies that I'm a snob, okay? I'm a fucking snob about them. And the thing about Hollywood is that they're kind of lazy. Like, a lot of these people at the top, they're not artists. They're fucking bean counters, you know? Like, they're fucking, like, they're money people. They just want to be able to say that they made a hit so they can keep their fucking job, okay? They don't care if they're making something that's like art and it's pushing the boundaries and it's great or whatever. They're just trying to keep their jobs, okay? So because of that, you know, you have this emerging international market in China and in Russia and other places, but mainly those two. And like, these people, they've never seen fucking movies like we've seen movies, okay? In fact, in 1994 was the first American movie released in China or something like that, like The Fugitive. The Fugitive. That's when they started letting American movies in. Before that, from like 1979 to 1990s, it was a ban on American movies and stuff, and they only saw like propaganda movies, which aren't movies, okay? Those aren't real movies, all right? And they're produced in China by people who aren't fucking Hollywood, okay? Hollywood, that's like America's main export is making movies. That's the only thing we make that's awesome, like, at all anymore, pretty much. And so, yeah, so they let The Fugitive in 1994, and then, you know, they used to only let like 20 films in a year, but now they're up to like 34 films a year that they'll let come in over there. And so, you know, it's like the Chinese market in particular has grown 400% over the last 5 years. I mean, they're getting ready to have more theaters there than they do here. And they also have an emerging middle class that they've never had before who has disposable income to go see these movies, okay? Like before, like people, even if they did have movies coming out, there was so few theaters and there was so few people who had money to see any of these movies that nobody was seeing them, okay? So now you have things like, well, it signals to me like why we're seeing so many remakes and reboots, okay? Because if you think about it, right? So China's never seen Independence Day. China's never seen Ghostbusters. China's never seen like RoboCop and like all these other movies, right? Like they didn't have them back then. Or Jurassic Park or like all the things. So you see like Hollywood people, they go, wait a minute. So if these guys haven't seen these movies, and these movies, we know they're good. We know that people like them. They were successes. Like these have followings and shit like that. Why don't we just remake these movies, you know, and then go sell them overseas, because that's where we're making our money anyways. And so that's exactly what's happening. But another problem with that is that when you do take something and you make it, and then you have to go translate it and make it over there, you can't do a lot of the subtleties. You can't have double entendres. You can't have all these like really interesting things. Like, you know, I noticed in Independence Day, the jokes that were in there, they were very universal, okay? Like, you can't have, like, we have so many colloquialisms, we have so much slang, we have so much weird fucking humor over here, like internet humor, like, changes all the time, like, it's nuts, okay? They don't fucking know anything about that. But you know what people universally do know about? Is, like, a butt joke. Like, Brent Spiner's butt was showing, and he's like, oh no, my butt's showing, and like, ha 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 ha, because that's funny. Everyone in the world knows that when someone's butt's showing, that that's embarrassing and that's funny. There was another joke that Jeff Goldblum did, where Thor's brother is like, did you pee your pants? And he's like, yeah, I peed my pants. And he's like, I peed my pants too. And it's like, pee-pee jokes. That's a universal joke. Pissing your pants. Everyone around the world understands a pissing your pants joke, okay? So that's why we're getting the movies that we're getting. It's all about how, you know, this emerging market means that international audiences are influencing what movies we're going to see. You know, and the problem is with that is that these people aren't as media savvy as we are, okay? Like, they haven't grown up with this shit, so you can trick them, like Wild Wild West, you know, like fucking Will Smith was saying. Like, you can still trick them. You can't do it forever. They're eventually going to be like, no, fuck this. But for right now, you know, Hollywood's short-sightedness and their greed, they're going to beat that pony as long as they can. So they're going to trick these people with these dumb movies as long as they can until it doesn't work, and then they're going to be forced to change. Meanwhile, you know, audiences like us, highly sophisticated audiences that have grown up with tons of movies, that have watched tons of storytelling, we're getting movies that we're just like, what is this? Like, why? Like, this is not made for me, because it's not made for you. You know, it's not made for us. And so it's a really weird time in the market right now. And like, part of it to me is sad, because it's like, okay, I want to see like big budget Hollywood movies that are also made for me in mind, you know? Like, I would like to see things like that. Like, for example, Chris Pine was saying that you can't make a cerebral Star Trek, you know? And it's like, because, and you're right, you can't, because you have to sell it overseas. And that's why you can't make it with super ins and outs and diplomacy and people talking out their problems and like da-da-da-da-da. Like, you can't do that. You have to put explosions, because those are fucking, everybody understands explosions. That's a universal element. And so it's sad. I get it. It's a really interesting time in the market. Things are super nuts. You know, I mean, it's even, here's another thing. This is another thing that was crazy. I was reading this book. In Russia, you know how you see like Ice Age? There's a new Ice Age movie coming out. Why the fuck is there a new Ice Age movie? I was like, Ice Age? Like, who the And then this book was talking about how in Russia, they fucking love Ice Age. They can't get enough of this shit. And every time they do a sequel, it does better. They make more money every time they make a new Ice Age movie. And like, this is why we keep seeing fucking Ice Age movies. It's crazy. It's like all, like, yeah, and Transformers, like, they love 3D over there. Like, in Russia, like, they fucking love the 3D, okay? Like, it's kind of failing over here. People aren't really buying into it. But, like, over there, they're like, fuck yeah! So, like, that's why you're seeing, like, all these movies, like Transformers and 3D bullshit. Like, it's all about the international market, okay? It is not about us anymore. We are too hip to their bullshit, and we don't buy into it. And, you know, these guys won't eventually, but, you know, for right now they are. So that doesn't bode well for us, you know. Today, we'll be talking to Nathan Barnett.
Hello.
And later on, we'll be paying a visit to Bill Roseman.
Welcome to the heart and soul of Marvel.